Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Mountaineer Postgame Show. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That is Eugene. Napoleon. The Mountaineers falling 48-14 in Game 2 of Big 12 play. A look here at the numbers. Devin Dampier was as good as advertised, 21 of 26 for 237 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did have the 1 interception by Nick Taylor. And for West Virginia, Jalen Henderson got the start. Only went 3 of 7 for 22 yards. In the second half, we saw Khalil Wilkins, and even at the end, we saw a little bit of Max Brown and Scotty Fox there in that final drive. Khalil Wilkins also 3 for 7 for 63 yards and a touchdown. Also ran it 9 times for 39 yards and seemed to give West Virginia at least a little bit of a spark on offense. We'll talk about him here in just a second. Also, Dior Hubbard, 10 carries, 61 yards and a touchdown. Nice to see Dior finally get involved there in the backfield rotation. Gene, initial thoughts on this one?
Well, I don't want to give my initial thoughts. But I will say I'm a little bit concerned. Obviously, in 2 weeks, we've given up, 89 points?
Did you not say something about the exact number of 89 on the preview last week or something? Or maybe it was some point when we were talking.
So,
Seemed like it was possible.
Points. On offense, we've scored 24 points. So I don't care on what level of football that you're competing at. Those are not good numbers. Now, obviously, we can talk about our offensive woes or whatever, because, again, it puts so much more pressure on the defense. But a game like today
didn't feel like that.
There were just glaring mistakes on both sides of the ball. And we do know offensively we're beat up. We do know that. So, obviously, defensively, again, it's going to apply pressure, but for some odd reason, it just seemed like from the first snap, it seemed like West Virginia just was not into this football game.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I don't know in what avenue that could be, but it just felt like there were way too many times where there was confusion on the defensive side, and maybe I'm wrong on that. We'll hear from Rich and Zach Ellie in the coming days, of course, but it just felt like there was either miscommunication or they were not getting lined up maybe as quickly as they had in weeks past, which is kind of confusing because last week against Kansas, that's the team that does all the shifts and all the motions and stuff pre-snap. Utah does a little bit of that eye candy stuff, but it's nowhere near the same stratosphere that what Kansas did a week ago. So you would think after seeing that, you wouldn't have those issues, and yet there were way too many plays where you would see. I remember one in particular, Ashton Woods, the linebacker, ran from the right side of the field or the field side of the field, or the boundary to the field, and then back to the boundary. As the play was being snapped, he was running back to the boundary side and just missed his run fit, and they got a first down on a run play. I mean, that's the little stuff that happens. And against a team like this that continues to just stay on schedule, Utah does not give up very many negative plays offensively. That's why they're so good on third down. They were 8 of 8 to start this game in the first half. The defense kind of figured some things out there in the second half on third down at least. But yeah, man, I agree with you. It just felt like from the beginning they knew they were outmanned. They knew they were shorthanded. And that's just not what you want to see. Now, how do you respond on a short week where you got to go all the way out to Utah now to play BYU? What's the secret sauce for that, Gene?
So, listen, first off, this is a situation where you have to get through this game film almost like tonight. You know what I mean? So, because you can't let this linger. And I know for most people, you just can't. You have to get through this game film. You have to fix the mistakes to the best of your ability. And you have to get on to looking, obviously at the BYU film to get prepared. I will say this. At this point in the season, you're going into week 6. Things are not looking the way that obviously you would want them to look, right?
Sure.
Here's where it comes down to the players that you put in at this particular point at any given position. Here's what it's going to be.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Because you cannot continue to rotate every freaking week. You're going into week 6 and you have to know who's who. Now, at this point, if you don't know who's who from camp till now, week 6, listen, we're in trouble, not just from a player's perspective, but the coaches.
Evaluation.
Right. The coaches got to know who is who at this particular point. Because guess what? And I'm not taking anything from Utah. Utah, listen, they played their game. That's what it is, right?
Damn good
I don't
football
know
team.
if Utah is in the top three right now in the Big 12 in terms of, talent, what they do, or whatever the case may be. So we have a sledgehammer of a schedule coming up. And if this is what it is, and you give up 48 to Utah, imagine
Mm.
what's going to happen when you have to scheme up for these other teams. And that's really, Scholar, that's really my concern. I'm looking past what just happened, looking down the road and saying, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we really have to scheme these things up, man, because if not, this may be, unfortunately, more of the same looking forward if we don't get this thing fixed now.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of had this thought in our heads, whether it was at the front of some people's minds or maybe towards the back, and as a possibility that this year could just be one of those year zero, a wash type of situation, and it's kind of playing into that point. And like you said, Gene, with the schedule, I mean, you're 2-3, you're 0-2 in Big 12 play. You're not going anywhere this year. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, and I don't think any that's news to anybody else that I'm saying this here, but at what point do you just feel like you got to just start to build with the guys that are going to be here, and I don't think you need to sit every single guy that's on his last year of eligibility, because you still want to try and win football games, and if there's a senior or redshirt senior out there that's the best guy for that spot, then you need to keep him out there. But in certain areas, whether it's a quarterback spot, whether it's right guard or right tackle, I think there are certain spots where you could pick and choose and say, hey, look, it's not going too well. It hasn't been going too well. We need to change something and build with some of the younger guys, see what we have there. Because at some point, you're going to have to make that evaluation for
Right.
2026 to know what you have in that 10-day window, going into the transfer portal. Obviously, that you can get guys in the portal after that 10-day window, but still, you need to be prepared for that. And what we saw out of the offensive line, Kimo Makanele at right guard continued to struggle, gave up a wide open path to the quarterback, and Jalen Henderson got sacked. Tykees Crawford also didn't play well. Once again, that right side, it's been an issue every single week. We've been
Right.
sitting here talking about make some changes. I understand that they haven't played maybe better than the starters during practice, but at some point you have to make that change in a game to see what it looks like. We saw
Right.
Donovan Haslam come in for Kimo at one point. We saw Malik Ogbo come in for Tykees Crawford. I saw
Right.
two very intriguing plays from those two guys that I haven't seen all year from the right guard and right tackle spot. Agbo on the big play that Bowie had the massive downfield block to really kind of spring that thing open. Donovan
Yep.
Haslam on a third or second down run, I'm not sure what it was. Khalil Wilkins was kind of stopped in the backfield. Haslam
Mhm.
saw him, reached back and said, hey, come with me. We're going to get to the sticks. Got close. That's the effort that needs to be there on that offensive line. So I know I just said a lot, but it all kind of comes back down to at what point do you feel like you have to just maybe start trying to get those younger guys more reps and kind of lean on those guys to just build with them in the future?
No doubt. I'm going to say this because I'm hearing, and I understand why I'm hearing this, and I understand why I'm reading this. I mean, the fans at this particular point, they're frustrated beyond, approach, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I keep hearing about, having 70 new players, 80 new players, whatever. I'm not sure if everybody understands this is the landscape of where we are, right? This is the landscape, Scholar, where we are in college sports across the board.
Mhm.
Everybody deals with the same thing. Okay, so
Just
I
different
want to
levels
get
to it. That's all.
yeah, I want to get rid of that notion.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm not sure how many people will agree with this or not agree with this, whatever the case may be. But do you know one of the most important aspects of building a roster is relationship with players, right? So that's bringing in the right staff. That's bringing in the right scheme. That's evaluating the right players to fit your scheme from the beginning. Okay. So even when you come in as a new staff, that means I have to know I'm bringing in the right people that I know they're going to have to fit what I do. Right. So that way, maybe a year one will be maybe not as bad as what we're seeing right now. Okay,
Yeah.
we get it. I'm so tired of reading thus far about the 81 plus players that are new. The fact that we haven't schemed, we don't have the talent to run the scheme that Rich wants to run offensively, and the way it's now starting to look, maybe even defensively. Okay, I'm gonna share this and I'm gonna leave. Then I'm gonna leave it alone. There are programs that I'm watching that are in the same boat that West Virginia is in currently, where you had maybe a new staff and you had to get 60 plus new players or 70 plus new players. But you know what? For some odd reason, those staffs, I guess, figured out along the way, we're going to build our roster with kids who really want to be here. And it's not so much about the money, but it's about being developed by the coach that they want to come play for.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Because right now, guess what? We're not going to outspend anybody. Let's be clear. In this nuance where we are in college sports,
You're a small
West
market
Virginia,
team.
right? You're not going to go out and spend and outspend these other schools. Now, in our own conference, I don't think anybody's outspending Texas Tech.
No. I mean, yeah,
I just
that's a
don't.
whole different ballpark.
So different. Okay, but if that's the case, then we better go out. And I wrote something down, and it starts with the 3 R's. And you know what the 3 R's are?
What is it?
Recruiting, recruiting, recruiting.
Recruiting. Yep.
Okay.
I believe, hey, and I think that's a part of it. I mean, there are, I think, certain instances. I don't know. I'd have to actually look. I'm really interested now that you said that to go and see the new team or the teams that have new coaches, how many new players they have, what their schedule's been like, because I think
Mhm.
that's part of it too. But the only thing that I'll come into the defense of the staff is like with relationships. It is hard to build those relationships in a matter of months. It is really hard, and we've been saying this all summer, so it's not anything new. But like when you have a couple years to build relationships with these kids that are in high school and you see guys recruiting, in the 28 class or 27 class or whatever, those are the guys that you're going to need to come up and really build this thing with. This is what we always talk about, building the foundation, setting the culture. This group has to do that. So this isn't the group that's going to be here 2, 3, 4 years from now when this thing's really humming, but it's got to be the one that sets the tone and sets the standard. So far, I think it's kind of been hit and miss. I think there have been games where that's been evident and it showed up. And there was games like today and last week where it just wasn't there. Now there were some moments both today and last week where that standard was set, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't consistent enough. And I don't think you need me to tell you that. But lastly, before we get out of here, back to the play on the field with Khalil Wilkins. There was a couple of throws that he had. Obviously, the one to Ryan Ward, wide open tight end, just short
Right.
armed it. I mean, you could blame the tight end, you could blame Khalil. I think there's enough blame for both to take there, but just short armed it. Would like to get that throw back. But the throw earlier in the drive, I don't know if you saw this one, but the comeback route to Jeff Weimer along the sideline, he short armed that one too. But man, the timing that he had on that ball and the
Yeah.
ball placement that he had on that ball was just pristine. If he just
Yeah.
has a little more zip on that pass, Gene, I'm telling you, that's a highlight throw right there. That was a good anticipatory throw. Weimer wasn't even turned. He didn't even start his break yet. It was just a thing of beauty. Just had to get a little more zip on it. Thoughts on Khalil Wilkins, and is he going to be the guy you turn to next week as your starting quarterback?
Listen, I like him. I've heard so much about him. Did my little research on him. I really like Khalil Wilkins. I think he has a real chance to be a stud once again, especially in this style of offense. The throw he had to Super Cam,
Yeah.
Super Cam, right?
Cam bailed him out a little bit, but yeah.
He did. But the point is to understand I'm gonna throw this ball because I know how good this receiver is, and I'm gonna give him
Trust
a
his
chance to
guy.
make I'm gonna trust my guy. I'm gonna give him a chance to make a play. So a little bit of a gunslinger mentality, but with a young man that could also run the ball. So he can do both. I'm seeing that, and it seems to me that if I'm going to, and that's exactly what I was meaning earlier. If I'm going to make a switch, I got to do it now.
Mm.
Now, so if this is going to be my guy, you know what? I'm going in. You're the guy. Don't worry about it. Unless you get hurt, we're going to develop this offense around your skill set.
That's the key because we've seen multiple quarterbacks in all 5 of these games so far. And I understand you're trying to find a guy. Nico, showed some things, but clearly just hadn't been the right fit. And Jalen hasn't provided that spark. You want to see, what the young pups can do. But I think you're right in that you can't ever find any sort of identity or consistency on the offense if you have 3, 4 different quarterbacks playing every single week. You can have a 2 QB system. We talked about this in the summer. But you can
Absolutely.
have a guy where he's taking 85% of the snaps and you have a guy that's taking 15% of the snaps. That can work. 50-50, or when you have guys going 25, 25, and 25, and 25, like that's not going to be possible. You have to sit, put your feet in the ground, say, I'm going with this guy, and it might have to be Khalil Wilkins. And until he proves that he's not the guy, then that's when you make the change. It can't be in game unless he throws 4 or 5 interceptions.
Right.
But I think you let him get a couple of weeks here, get him the BYU game, give him a week of practice in the bye week,
There
give him
you
that
go.
start against UCF, and then you can evaluate. Hey, this is 3 weeks, technically 2, where he's been the guy. See where
Right.
you're at. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. Listen, from what I've seen at this particular point of the season, Khalil Wilkes would be my guy. From what I've seen just from today,
Yeah.
he seems to be in a position where he can handle himself in pressure situations. From what I've seen today, he can throw the ball on time.
How about the throw on the move? I mean, that was
Listen,
not an easy throw. Right up against the line of scrimmage, he threw it, what, 20 yards
absolutely
downfield?
right. So give him the opportunity to show me that you're not the guy. That's where I'm at this particular point. Going into week 6, show me, you know what? You've earned the start next week at BYU. Let me see what you do on the road, because now that in that environment as well,
Yeah. And
that's
right. So keep your expectations low. If he goes out and has a bad performance, don't write him off just yet. That's why I think, again, it's critical. Give him a couple games because that's not
sure.
an easy test.
No, sure. That, I mean, listen, we're sitting at home doing this, and this is why Rich is who Rich is, because he's been doing this for eons, and that's why that staff is what it is. They've been doing this at the highest level. So my point is, give Khalil an opportunity, see what he got, and then if it works out and it's to your benefit, now you're building your offense around this young man. And listen, he's young, so now you pretty much got your answer about who's going to be your quarterback for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. It very well could be Khalil Wilkins. We'll see what the Mountaineers do this upcoming week. Again, that game's on Friday at 10:30. It's going to be a late one. We'll be here for it.
Yeah, that's it.
Also, we have a schedule adjustment because of that. So everything is moved a day up this week. We'll have the morning after, as always, tomorrow, bright and early. We'll also have episodes of Between the Ears on Tuesday, or excuse me, on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we'll have the Walk Thru GameDay Show with Gene and I breaking down the Mountaineers and the Cougars. So thank you guys for watching. That'll do it for us here today on the Mountaineer Postgame Show. Click that like and subscribe button here on our page at West Virginia on SI. And we'll be seeing you guys right here tomorrow on BTE. Take care.